So Matt Walsh is out there, Matt Walshin again. By the way, his Twitter was hacked the other day. Person was going in. Whoever hacked him was going inski. But I think he got control of his account back. But this was prior to his account hacking. He had done this segment. I'm not saying they're linked, by the way. I have no idea if the person who hacked him watched this video. But he has really leaned in on a couple issues. One of them, of course, is the trans panic. He cannot stop talking about that. And then one of the other things is crime. He's a big culture warrior. I view him as more of a culture warrior than an economic conservative. I'm sure he is also economic, I'm sure he's also conservative on economics, but he doesn't lead with that. It's all more culture war stuff. So here he is. He's going to talk about crime, the scourge of crime. And I find the argument he makes here really incredible. Because in order for him to believe this, he has to accept a very basic premise, which I'm going to lay out for you in a minute. And if he does believe this, it would be astonishing. So let's watch.
But of course, much of the violence we see in places like Chicago is not racial. The business owners being chased out of these cities are often not white. The victims of violence in these cities are most often not white. So this is a far-reaching problem that would still exist, even if white people hadn't been selected as the assigned villain group in modern America. Situation would be a little bit better in these cities, most likely, if that hadn't happened. But that alone would not solve the problem. If you want to solve the problem, there are two basic solutions. And no solution that excludes these 2 points can ever hope to solve anything. Number one, you have to round up the criminals and throw them in prison. And I know this is not exactly a mind-blowing insight, or at least it shouldn't be. But the only way to restore order is to impose severe penalties on those causing the disorder. That's the only way through it. If there isn't enough room in the prisons, then build new ones, okay? Build 50 new prisons if you have to. And if you don't have the money for it, then raise the taxes in these cities. They're raising taxes all the time anyway.
This may be the first time I've ever seen a conservative commentator actively advocate for raising taxes. When it comes to, we got to lock up more people. We need 50 new prisons. If you have to raise taxes to do it, raise taxes to do it. Wow. He would never say those words like, hey man, we have 45,000 people dying because they don't have health care. If you got to raise taxes to get those people, raise taxes, 500,000 medical bankruptcies, it's the number one cause of bankruptcy. We can't allow it. If you got to raise taxes for it. But for more prisons, he's all in. Oh man, this guy. He's something. I got to give him that. He is something.
Democrats love raising taxes, so raise them again. So that the community can pay for prisons to put all their violent scumbags into.
Okay. I mean, I think you guys get the gist of it. So, his brilliant idea to fix society is, bro, you got to lock up the criminals, bro. That's what you got to do. Okay. Matt, you do know that we already do mass incarceration. In fact, pulled this up here for you. Incarceration rates. I don't know why this one compares New York, but you get the gist of it because you see the U.S. and everybody else there. Comparing New York and founding NATO countries. We lock up 664 people for every 100,000 in the population. Look at the UK, look at Portugal, look at Canada, look at France, look at Belgium, look at Italy, Luxembourg, Denmark, Netherlands, Norway, Iceland. I mean, just to pick a random one here, Italy. We lock up 664 per 100,000. They lock up 89 per 100,000. So, my question for Matt Walsh is, and he says, lock up more. Lock up more. My question for Matt Walsh is this. Do you think Americans are just more violent and more criminal by their very nature? And you know what? Go further than that. Whether you think it's nature or if you think it's nurture / culture / environmental or whatever, are we this much more criminal than other countries? So are we just worse people? Because I know he's tough on crime. He would say criminals are bad people, right? So are we just worse people? the numbers don't lie, right? We're already doing mass incarceration. You want to do even bigger mass incarceration, massive mass incarceration. You think that's some sort of a solution. So, it's just a logical deduction, right? It's like a tautology. You're saying, yeah, Americans are just worse. We're just worse than the rest of the world. I don't know, man. That would seem like kind of a anti-American take, kind of an unpatriotic take. Hey, what do you want me to say? My fellow American citizens are just that much more criminal. We're just more criminal than everybody else in the world. We're just worse. We're just more prone to violence. That's just how it is. It's just, however it got this way. I don't know, but that's just how it is. Do you really believe that? Do you really believe that? Now, again, he goes a step further because he said, yeah, let's lock up more people. But he's also been clear on the record. He wants to, increase the drug war and make the penalties more strict and more severe. I think he said he wants to put, drug dealers to death or something like that. So, look, what I would contend to you guys is stuff like drug crimes, non-violent, victimless drug crimes, selling cocaine, selling weed, doing cocaine, doing weed. These are people making their own decisions. Now, some people might be able to handle it, others might not. Maybe they get addicted or whatever. But these are not things that merit you should be locked in a cage. I would free every single non-violent drug offender in the entire country. That's what I would do. So then you'd tick down that, this number quite a bit. But yeah, for actual violent crimes, murder, rape, robbery, whatever. Yeah, you want those people. There needs to be punishment and rehabilitation, and there's a logic to making sure you protect society by having a basic function of a jail or a prison, right? So I'm in favor of that, but I would contend to you that overall, if we had a system that made sense, overall these numbers would be lower. And by the way, just so you know, all of the data shows when you have a criminal justice system that's actually geared towards rehabilitation, as they do, for example, in many of the Scandinavian countries, what's called the recidivism rate, which is hey, if they get out, are they going to commit a crime again? That number goes way down. So in other words, if you treat people like people and you actually try to rehabilitate them, in many instances, these people get their act together and get their life together. They need a little bit of attention, a little bit of care. They need to learn things. They need a hands-on approach. And all the evidence is there in other countries that when you do this, people don't commit crimes anymore. They get out and they get their act together. And so he would never be in favor of that. He's definitely not in favor of any sort of rehabilitation. He's just in favor of punishment. And he wants to lock up more people, including people who do non-violent crimes. And Lord only knows how far he'd go, but he looks at this number and says, those are rookie numbers. You got to get them up more. And by the way, the most important point is what? He would never want to attack the root of the problem. What's the root of the problem? Poverty. If people are being raised in dilapidated cities with broken families, with no money, no hope, no chance to get out, a society that hasn't created the social safety nets to give these people a chance, what do you expect is going to happen? You want to find a way to make less criminals? If you massively reduce poverty, you will massively reduce the number of crimes and the number of criminals. There's no doubt about it. There is no doubt about it at all. Which, by the way, would you look at that? What a shocker. All of those Scandinavian countries that I just referenced, which have phenomenal social safety nets, which look out for everybody, they have very few criminals. Wow. It's almost like if you give people health care, and you give people education, and you give people a roof over their head, and you give people a decent amount of money where they can survive and thrive, it's almost like if you meet people's basics, they don't end up trying to rob the corner store or murder the person 2 streets over. Turns out that doesn't happen. Wow. So he would never want to get to the root of the problem. If we had a thriving social democracy where everybody had health care, everybody had education, everybody had high wages, everybody had a decent shot, a community that actually is a community, you're going to have fewer criminals. You just are. You just are. So instead of addressing this from the root, which is the poverty, the extreme depravity, the terrible situations that people are living in, instead of addressing it from the root, He goes right to, nothing we can do about it. Criminals are just criminals, and lock up more people. Wow. Very intelligent there, Matt. Very intelligent. Let me know how your utopian society ends up when you build 50 more prisons, lock up millions more people. My guess is that system would just be dreary, sad, and pathetic, and it would be a place nobody really wants to live. If you want to see me and Crystal Ball interview legends like Noam Chomsky, Cornel West, and more, subscribe to Crystal Kyle and Friends on Substack. $5 a month gets you the video version a day early. Remember, we take 0 ad dollars for this podcast. Or you can sign up on Substack for free and get the audio version a day later. Link in the video description box below.